Welcome to the Not Even Wine with Dinner podcast. I'm your host, Kristen, and we are here to talk about all things life, love, loss, and liquor. So let's uncork the bottle and get this party started. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode. I want to quit drinking, 5 stages of change. So we're going to jump right into this today. And I plan on doing a workshop. I think if you've been following me for any length of time, then you will know I've talked about this since probably November. And my year got away from me. No excuses, but that's just the facts, man. My year got away from me so far. I ended up going to England, which was a last minute trip that we planned. And now I'm back. So I need to start kind of kicking some more ass. So I do plan on doing a workshop about the 5 stages of change here sooner than later. All right, so this one's kind of a hard one. And I want to clarify that I don't have all the answers. I am, as I always say, not a medical psychiatric recovery specialist, none of that. I am just here as peer support and somebody who drank for over 30 years. And somebody who lost their sister unexpectedly to cirrhosis. So, everyone's got their way that they quit something or they change something. What I want to talk about today is not just in relation to substance abuse. This is a theory that's been used for a long time. It was developed in the 70s and 80s, and it's something that has proven to help with change. So there's all kinds of changes, that could be a life change, a relational change, a job change. You're trying to quit something or start something, but you need to have some steps in place. And first and foremost, you need to know where the hell you are. If you don't know where you are in the stages of change, you're going to have a really hard time trying to get to that change. And so that is what I want to talk about today, especially because so many people are quote unquote sober curious. And I'm not like poo-pooing that term. However, if you're sober curious, you're already in stage 2 of the stages of change, which is contemplation. It means you're already thinking about quitting. So yay for you. You've already moved from step 1 to step 2 without even realizing it. And let me explain what this is also. This is called the trans-theoretical model of change. And again, it was originally developed, I believe, in the late 70s, early 80s as a way to measure and monitor behavioral change in people. I don't have all the facts. You're welcome to Google it. I will put a link to it in the show notes, so you're welcome to kind of look into that on your own. But it is, again, for anything regarding a change in your life, it helps if you know where you are, and it helps to know how to take those steps forward to make lasting change. So again, today is really going to be kind of like the cliff notes of this. And if you're interested, please comment in whichever podcast you're listening to that you would like more information about this, or that you would like to participate in a workshop. Another way that you can do this is if you head to www.notevenwinewithdinner.com and sign up for my newsletter. Then when I do put this out there, you'll be the first to know. And I'm on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and all that good stuff. So now, if you are watching, you might notice that I am in a different place. Normally I'm sitting at my dining room table, but I am now in my new office. This is still a work in progress. You can see my cute walls. I painted half of it pink and half of it turquoise. It's very mid-century. This is my cute little stuffed pillow that's usually in this chair, and he's there because I am perpetually 12 years old. So I do still like, I still like, anime and cartoon type things. I am very much bubblegum and sunshine. So this is a very self-reflecting space that I've created for myself and for this podcast. So if you have not watched it, you can jump on YouTube and see it there. So without further ado, as they say, let's get started. Okay, so Again, there's 5 stages. We're just going to start and kind of roll through them all. The first one is pre-contemplation. And the best way to describe pre-contemplation is with the word no. It means no, I don't want to change. I'm not interested in what you have to say. I'm just rolling through life as is, and I'm not doing anything different. You have not even, again, pre-contemplation, you have not or are not contemplating making change. So you are just flat out flipping no. So, whether it's, I have a horrible job, but I'm not going to change my job, or there is not a problem with my drinking. My relationship is fine. Even if those things are having issues, you don't see them, or you don't feel them, or you're in denial. It could be a combination of all of those 3, but pre-contemplation is just flat out no. It means you are not ready to change. And I think it's very important to emphasize here, for anybody who is listening that has somebody in their life that you think needs to make a change, regardless of what it is about, whether it's leaving that loser partner, or quitting drinking or smoking, or binging and porn and whatever they're doing, shopping, spending. If they're not ready to do it, you can't make them do it. I cannot emphasize this enough. One of the silly little cliches that I use all the time in my life is, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So you can show somebody the way, you can tell somebody your thoughts, but you cannot make another human being change. If you've been following anything on this planet, you probably have heard of Mel Robbins and the let them theory. That's something I do highly recommend. She's kind of a self-help guru, if you want to call her that, but she has written this book about let them and letting people do their own thing. They're being their own adults. That doesn't mean that you let people abuse themselves, especially if it's people that you're affected by directly. But it is a great theory to understand that you can't change another adult. So with all that said, I'll put a link to the let them theory in the notes as well. And, unless you're living under a rock, you've probably heard of her and what she's doing. And I subscribe to it. And I think it's a fine line. It's trying to find that happy medium between letting somebody you love do something, even though you don't like it or you don't think they should be doing it, and having to step in or, have a much bigger influence because they're abusing themselves. That's a fine line. And she does cover that in the book as well. So again, you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So if somebody needs help, in your opinion, that's great. You can try to influence as much as you can, but you can't make somebody change if they're not ready. If they're in pre-contemplation, then you're going to have a very difficult time. Or if you force somebody to do something, or you give them an ultimatum, like you need to do this or else, which is also setting a boundary. If you have an intervention, this is probably the best example when it comes to substance abuse. If you have an intervention with somebody that you love, and they're not ready, there is a high probability that they're going to relapse. And I'm not saying that you should not participate in an intervention, especially if somebody is really putting themselves in danger. You got to do what you got to do to try to help those you love. But you also have to go into that knowing that you might have a lot of resistance and that relapse can be a big possibility. Okay, so with that said, let's move on. Number 2 is contemplation. Now, as I said at the beginning, if you are sober curious, then you're already in stage 2. You're already in a state of contemplation. And what I mean by that is that you are thinking, you're researching, you're listening, you're looking at making a change. You're already investing in making a change. You're Googling something, you're listening to this podcast, you're talking about it with other people. Back in the day, before the internet, you might be looking something up in an encyclopedia. You were looking up AA meetings in a phone book, or you're Googling them online. If you're looking at the change, then you are contemplating. And a lot of people stay here, I think, in my opinion, IMO, in my opinion, people stay here the longest. I mean, I probably stayed in the contemplation stage for 30 years before I quit drinking. I started in my early 20s, waking up thinking, oh my God, I really need to cut back. Oh my gosh, I really shouldn't drink so much. Oh God, if you'll just get me through this, I'll never drink again. If that's you, you're contemplating it. Don't fool yourself. Don't think, oh, I don't have a problem. You're already in the stage of contemplation, which means you know you have to make a change. So, sober curious friends, it's not a bad thing. Let me emphasize that. This is not a bad thing. It doesn't mean that if you're sober curious, oh my gosh, I'm a raging alcoholic, and what is she trying to tell me? That, oh, I'm thinking about quitting drinking, there must be something wrong with me. No, it just means that you're considering making a change to better yourself. That's typically the situation. We're not changing because we want to do something badly. We want to do something that's good for ourselves. And sometimes the contemplation is a result of somebody else's pressure. Somebody else is telling you you need to quit. Somebody else is saying that you have a problem, or seeing that you need to make a change, or that your spouse or your significant other is abusive or a bum or whatever. There's 1,000 things. Or your job is shit, that you're getting treated poorly at your job. You're contemplating looking at making a change, and usually it is a positive change. So it's okay to spend time here. You just don't want to live here. Change is scary, man. I can't stress that enough. Change is scary, but I feel like change is necessary to grow. Like, we can't grow without change. So just take that into consideration. It's okay to spend time in contemplation in stage 2, but don't live here. Do all your research, educate yourself, but then you need to propel yourself into stage 3, which is preparation. So now you're taking another step. So maybe instead of looking into making the change, you're preparing to take the change, or to make the change. Sorry, you're preparing, whether it's you are now scheduling an AA meeting, or you are throwing away some of the alcohol in your house. You are applying for a job. That kind of is on the cusp of going into the next step, which we're going to get to in a moment. But preparing is key. It's funny because some people will jump. I'm going to tell you, the next step is action. Obviously, you're doing something. You have to take action on the change. I think when you jump from contemplation to action without doing preparation, that's when you're at the risk of setting yourself up to fail. I think I've learned this the hard way. I quit drinking my first time, and I quit for 6 years. So I was successful, but I hadn't prepared for it. I just had one too many hangovers, was puking my guts out on a road trip back from a weekend in Savannah, and was violently ill, woke up the next day and was just like, that's enough. And I didn't drink again for 6 years, but I didn't prepare for that. So, I didn't tell myself how to deal with it. I just did it. And I'm not suggesting that you can't go cold turkey when you quit things. I know plenty of people who have done it. But if you don't think things through and how you're going to handle certain situations or scenarios or whatnot, then, in my own case, I relapsed. And I relapsed because I didn't prepare myself for that moment when I thought, oh, I'll be fine. What did it for me was that I was at a funeral, and I decided to take a toast in honor of my husband's grandmother's passing. I thought, I'll just have one toast. We'll raise a glass to his grandmother. And that just, I'm not saying that I took one toast and had one sip and then all of a sudden went back to being, a raging binge drinker, but I started drinking again casually here and there, and then that turned back into my binges. So I didn't prepare. So again, preparation is still taking steps forward. So I kind of feel like it's on the cusp of action. You are doing things, scheduling things. Maybe you're talking about it more. Maybe instead of contemplating it and everything's internal in your head, the preparation is that you're actually outwardly speaking about it. You may not have quit drinking, you may not have changed jobs, but you're talking about it and you're preparing, and you're you're opening yourself up also to being able to answer questions, whether they're questions from others or questions that you have in your head of what if this doesn't work out? What if it's not enough money? What if I'm asked about why I don't drink anymore? What if I encounter a situation where I'm feeling peer pressure? Those are the things that I feel like are really, really, really important to prepare for. If you haven't listened to last week's or the last episode, I think it's episode number 10, the observations at the bar from a sober girl, or observations of a sober girl at the bar. I can't remember how I worded it, but something about being the sober girl at the bar and what I observed. And it turned into a how-to list. And I do think it was really helpful because I found myself in scenarios I wasn't really prepared for. And from that, I created this idea of how to prepare to go in the situation. So it was almost like I prepared myself for the change, for going into a scenario that I was not prepared for before. I hope that didn't sound bumbly. I hope that makes sense. But listen to that episode if you haven't, and you'll know what I mean. It's about preparing before you go into a situation, preparing for change. Okay, moving on. Number 4 is the big one. This is action. This is I am doing something. I am making a change. I'm taking a stand. I'm quitting the drink. I'm changing my job. I'm leaving this person. I'm moving out of my house, or I'm buying a house. I'm moving state, whatever. I'm leaving. I don't know. I mean, the sky's the limit here. You are making a change, and woohoo, this is your big moment, my friends. This is the big moment when you say, screw this. I've done all I can do. I've thought about it. I've prepared. I've put steps in place, and now I'm taking action. And what I mean, what I said earlier about not getting caught up in staying in the state of contemplation and preparation, I feel like, let's just say drinking aside, I feel like I see a lot of people do this when they're afraid of change. And again, change is scary. As somebody who's worked in the wellness industry, let me start with that. I noticed it a lot there. There were people that were in my midst, we'll say, and this is not a criticism, it's just something, and I've done it too, where you are like a lifetime student, which we should all be. I think we should all have continuing education of some sort. We should never stop learning. I truly, firmly believe that. But when you get stuck as a full-time student of whatever it is, that doesn't necessarily mean you're in school, but you're like, I can't do this until I learn this. You've got to step back and say, do I really need that skill? Can I pay somebody to do that skill? Do I have somebody I can barter with to do that skill so I can take the step forward? I really, really hope that this makes sense. And where I was saying with wellness, I saw so many people who would get certified in 10 different modalities, but not really use any of them. And I've done some of that. Like I'm level 1 Reiki. I'm a yoga instructor, which I have used. Now I've been teaching for 18 and a half years. I was a certified personal trainer, which I used the knowledge and then quickly decided that was not something that I wanted to do. It was more that it was education that helped me with my teaching of yoga because it helped me in a different way with anatomy. But I've taken several different types of continuing education courses thinking that I'm going to use and do all these things, and I didn't do a lot of them. And I think some of that's my ADHD. Some of it's that I'm a Libra. I'm supposed to be finding balance, but it just means I'm always confused. And ADHD doesn't help that. So I'm an unbalanced Libra, if that means anything to you, if you know astrology. However, it's very easy to get caught up in the details. And sometimes you just have to say, fuck it. Let's just do this. Let's make this happen regardless of how much I know. And sometimes that's very scary. Sobriety is scary. Sobriety is hard. I will not lie. I said this just the other day to somebody. I said, quitting drinking was easy. Staying sober is hard. So you can do this, whatever your change is, but don't get so caught up in all the details that you become frozen and you don't move. I just thought that was really important to share because I've seen this and I've done this. Here's a good example. I'm sitting here in this room and I have a podcast. Now, when I started the podcast, I literally started looking up all of this research to do on the best way to video it, the best way to get sound, the best way to launch it, and blah, 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 blah. And it just got overwhelming. And finally, I was like, screw it. I just need to set up my camera, turn on my phone for sound, and just fuck it, do it. Make this happen. Now, am I getting millions of followers yet? No, I'm not, but it's starting to grow slowly. So I'm just making this happen. And you know what? Maybe down the road, I will get a little bit deeper in all the logistics and the details of how to make it look the best, sound the best. The biggest thing I just recently did was I bought these little lavalier mics, and it has made things much better with my sound, hopefully. Today, I'm actually using my Canon SLR camera or DSLR camera to record it so that the video comes out a little better, because I was trying to do it on a Zoom call and it was just grainy and kind of a shitty way to do it. So, but I didn't need a videography class. And that's what I'm trying to get to, is don't get caught up in the details. I can't afford to pay somebody to do these things, so I'm just doing the best I can with what I have, so I could just get it done and get it out. And I feel like the details will follow. So be prepared, but don't be so prepared that you become frozen and don't take any action. All right, last one. This one's the hard one. Maintenance. Staying there. You've now done it. You've taken that step and you've made some shit happen. And now you've got to figure out how to stay there. The maintenance step, ideally, in terms of the model and of the trans-theoretical model, is that you have stayed there 6 months or longer. Doesn't mean that, being sober for a month isn't a good thing. It's just, in order to call it maintenance, they say it's at 6 months or more. And I think that for something like sobriety, 6 months, getting from 6 months to a year, that's huge. A week's good, a month's good. I know that, AA has all the chips and all that kind of stuff. I think having milestones is very important, but you're really aiming for the long game here when you make a change. And again, same with a job, same with a relationship, or, committing to making a large purchase, like of a house, or making a move. Obviously, if you move, you know that you're trying to commit to something that is a permanent change, or at least a semi-permanent change. Moving sucks. I'm not afraid to move. I'm not afraid of mobility. I actually like that I've lived in a lot of different places, but the moving process is quite painful sometimes. And I think the older you get, the harder it is. But you're changing for the long game to a certain extent. And what I mean by that is, like, I would not move anywhere if I could help it. I don't think I've ever moved anywhere for less than 6 months. I think a year may be the shortest that I've lived somewhere. But I've always tried to propel myself forward for something better and something more positive. So that's what you're looking for. And in my opinion, your focus is not just on relapsing. It is, let me go back a step. The way that you're going to get that 6 months in is back in the step of preparation. When you're prepared for what it is that you are embarking on, you're more likely to be successful. So you want to take a lot of time in 3, not so much time that you get stuck there. Move on to step 4 for action. Take that action, make that change, and then hopefully your preparation has prepared you for your maintenance. So you don't relapse, you don't step back, you don't get sucked into something maybe more negative, or you don't take steps backwards. Our goal is to go forward in life. We're not looking too far in that rear view mirror. The rear view mirror, if you notice, like on a car, I don't know if it does this anymore, but it used to say, items in mirror are closer than they seem. It's the same, it's the same in life. Like, you want to see those things in the distance. It's why things are, they tend to look a little bit distorted and different in the rear view mirror versus the windshield. We're trying to go forward. And that's why the rear view mirror is small and the windshield is big. Let's move it on forward. So I hope this helped you guys. As I said, if you want to learn more and if you're interested in doing the workshop with me, go and check out the website, sign up for the newsletter, and you'll be the first in the know. And then please make a comment and subscribe to this podcast as well. Tell your friends and share. But comment that you're interested in the workshop, and then I can get a sense of how much interest there is. All right, my lovelies, thank you guys so much. I hope you guys have a fantastic week, and we will catch you guys next time. Remember to stay safe and stay sober. Love you guys. Just a quick note of the legal jargon. I am not a medical or psychiatric professional, nor am I a recovery or addiction specialist. This podcast is for information use only, and I am simply sharing my own experiences with sobriety, drinking, mental health, and wellness. I'm not here to diagnose or to treat. So if you're struggling and you feel like you are in immediate need, please contact a medical professional or call 911. Thank you guys again. Stay safe, stay sober.